Hello, NP Clem here again. This time I'm going to do a live podcast. Hopefully you can hear me. I don't have the best mic slash headphone setup ever, so hopefully you can hear me. If you can't, I don't know, let me know. I guess I'll type that in the shout box here in a second. Sorry about that. Getting back to it. As the post says, it's about the AFC. I know Kate already asked me to do NFC South. I think I would like to do the NFC either this Saturday or coming up next week sometime. So let's get into it. So in Week 14, there were a few big matchups that affected the playoff race. The first one, obviously, is Thursday night. Was the Jets at the Dolphins. Jets coming in 11-1. Dolphins coming in 9-3. The Jets' stout defense still played really well, giving up only 19 points to a finally healthy Brian Brown-led offense. But the offense could only muster 10 points as James Dale threw 4 interceptions. So now, the Jets currently have a one-game lead over the Dolphins right now. And like I said, Brian Brown is back. He's healthy. Good news for the Jets fans. Carano and Wigert are both coming back. They're off the injury report. Though they're questionable, I believe they both are. So the question the Jets front office has to face now is: do they play them? Do they play Eric and OJ, or do they sit them for another game to try and get them healthy for the playoffs? With the way James Dale played against the Dolphins, I know the Dolphins have a solid defense, so it's not exactly the best way to evaluate your young players going to get up against the toughest competition. It might be worth it to bench him and play Eric Weger to try and get to the number 1 seed, or hang on to the number 1 seed. With this win, not this win, but the Jets have clinched a playoff spot, so no matter what happens for the rest of the season, they are going to be in the playoffs. And then 1 o'clock games. The first one was the Bills, who came in 4-8 against the Steelers, 5-7. Steelers rolled 41-21. You can imagine the Steelers had actually tried playing a couple weeks ago. They'd actually might be just one game back behind the Bengals and really challenge them for the division crown. You know, Rob Core, I've given him a lot of shit, but he looked really good in this game. He played a high percentage, ran the ball very well. The offensive line, even though it's still not very talented, they only gave up 1 sack. I'm seeing in the shot box it's very local quality. I think he meant to type low. Let me see if I can play around some settings real quick. That might help. Is that better, Ro? If you're listening, if anyone listening. Oh, okay, never mind. Hopefully it's better. If it's not, let me know. So like I said, Core looked good. Offensive line only gave up 1 sack. You know, Nick Engelberger, who's been pretty poor first half of the season, is really coming on the last couple of games. Played really well. The next game, the 2-10 Ravens traveled to the 8-5 Cincinnati Bengals, and the Bengals won that game 28-14. Deshaun Jenkins, after a monster first game, came back down to earth a little bit. It's still too early to evaluate what kind of player he is and what he can be. So it's not much to say. Ravens are pretty. I don't know why they're bad. I mean, their defense is playing poorly. I mean, I understand why the offense is playing poorly. I think they've lost at least 3 starters on the offensive line, maybe even 4 or 5. So I can see why the offense will struggle, but the defense playing poorly still, I don't quite get. Next game, Raiders at 7-5 traveled to the Texans, who are 4-8, and the Raiders won that game 31-14. Hall played pretty well. The O-line still is not very good at all. They gave up over 3 sacks. And it looks like Emmett Spears is kind of starting to play well, starting to get together a little bit. He's got 100 yards and touchdown this game. And you know, Fred Romanowski is a monster. Got a couple sacks for himself. Now looking to the 4 o'clock games, we had the 2-10 Jags travel to the 8-4 Colts. The Colts ended up winning that one 24-21. With that win, the Colts were the first team to clinch the division. any division in the NFL. So they are going to playoffs, guaranteed, for the first time since 2016. Looking at the stats, Aaron Shea played like a rookie, not very high percentage completion through interception. Jason Voigt, who we picked up after Tampa Bay cut him for some reason, had eight catches for 100 yards and a touchdown. Came up big for us with Mosey being out rest of the season. And Kelly Mitchell doesn't get a lot of hype because all he does is get tackles, but he still continues to lead our team in tackles. Good second round pick for us, I think. The next game, 8-4 Denver Broncos at 7-5 San Diego Chargers. Huge game in the AFC West, who still has 3 teams alive in the playoffs. The Broncos did end up winning 21-17. Darren Warner played well. He wasn't great, but he didn't turn the ball over. The defense isn't very good at most places, but they usually do a pretty good job of containing opponent offenses, and they did pretty good this time. Will Thompson played solid. He wasn't bad. I don't think any turnover either. One thing mentioned that bodes ill for both of them is they combine to go 5-23 on third downs, which is not good at all. That's not something you want to see at a playoff team. So after this week, look at the standings here. In the AFC East, the Jets are 11-2, Dolphins are 10-3. Jets still have that 1-game lead. In the North, the Bengals are 8-5. The Steelers are 6-7. Bengals still have a 2-game lead, but the Steelers still have an outside shot at winning the division. AFC South, it's Colts 9-4. They've clinched. Don't need to mention anyone else. Now, AFC West, which is definitely the most interesting division in the AFC, the Broncos are 9-4, have a 1-game lead over the Raiders at 8-5, and a 2-game lead over the Chargers at 7-6. And I'll go a little bit more into the AFC West here in a couple minutes. This might end up being a bit short than I wanted it to be. Oh well. Week 15 in the AFC. In the East, the Jets travel to play the Titans, and the Dolphins play the Chargers. The Jets definitely have a much easier game. This might be the one game that you rest Carano and Weggert if you're the Jets. Titans aren't a bad team necessarily, but especially defensively, they're a bit shallow, and I think this is a game where your defense can take over and hold Kareem Taylor in control and containment. Now, the Dolphins have a huge game at the Chargers for both teams. The Dolphins still looking to try and win the division, and the Chargers are looking to try and make the playoffs. So I think we'll see a really, really good game there. I would still give the Dolphins a slight edge because they have Brian Brown, and I think overall they're a more complete team. Now, in the North, Cincinnati hosts Kansas City, and Pittsburgh travels to Oakland. I think Cincinnati will clinch the division, I believe, if they win. If Cincinnati wins and Pittsburgh loses, Cincinnati wins the AFC North and goes to the playoffs for, I think, the first time ever. Kansas City has been up and down, but they've been more down recently. I don't think that's going to change. Cincinnati still doesn't have enough talent to hang with some of the top teams. I wouldn't necessarily consider Cincinnati a top team. Pittsburgh, I think their season ends. They're going to Oakland, who's still looking to maybe win their division, host a first-round game, and then at least bare minimum make the playoffs. So I think Pittsburgh's just not going to be able to hang with them. Now, in the West, we've already mentioned a couple of these teams, but I do want to go through them one more time. Denver travels to Buffalo. A win will put them at 10-4. That would pretty much clinch them the playoff spot for them. I think would almost clinch them a playoff spot. Like San Diego hosts Miami and Oakland hosts Pittsburgh. I don't need to talk too much more about that. Now, the AFC West. So, run through the standings real quick again. The Broncos are 9-4, Raiders are 8-5, and Chargers are 7-6. The first tiebreaker is head-to-head. So currently head-to-head, Denver is 2-0 against San Diego, 0-1 against Oakland, and then San Diego and Oakland have won a game each against each other. So in the off chance that San Diego makes up 2 games against Denver and Oakland doesn't tie with them, then Denver still wins the division. Let's see here. I know Week 17 is a big game, big week for these teams, for this division. In Week 17, Denver plays at home against Oakland, and San Diego hosts Kansas City. So the second tiebreaker is divisional record, and no matter what, Denver is going to win that one. So the only way, if you're San Diego or Oakland, as far as I can tell, that you can beat Denver if there's all 3 teams. Well, backtrack that, I forgot. Oakland can still win the division if they tie with Denver. The only way San Diego can win the division is outright. If they tie with anyone, I believe they will lose unless they beat Kansas City Week 17, Oakland loses to Denver, and San Diego and Oakland are tied for the lead of the division, but I'm not sure if that's even a possibility without Denver also being tied with them. But yeah, if Denver ties with either of these 2 teams, especially if they beat Oakland Week 17, they win the division. Now, the only way Oakland can win the division with tying with Denver is beating them Week 17. They'll have a 2-0 record against Denver and will win the division. But I think either way, the 2 teams that are going to make the playoffs in this division are going to be the Broncos and the Raiders. Chargers haven't lost against against Denver this week at home. Really, really kills their playoff shots. I just don't think they can make up that difference given their schedule. Let's look at their schedule quick. Yeah, against Miami, against Tennessee, and against Kansas City. I think they beat Kansas City. I think Miami is kind of a toss-up. I think they'll have a slight disadvantage, but they definitely have an advantage over Tennessee. So if they can go 2-1 in that stretch, that'll give them 9-7, and then they just have to hope that Oakland goes 1-2, loses to Denver, and then I think at that situation, Broncos win the division, and then Chargers. I think if they beat Kansas City and Oakland loses to Denver, and they both go 9-7, then I think San Diego goes to the playoffs, and that's outside of winning the division. That's the only scenario they have. I think really. I think that's being pretty optimistic for them too, given the injuries they've had this season. Okay. Let's look at the actually current seeds right now. Still number 1 seed, the Jets, 11-2. Number 2 are the Broncos at 9-4. The Broncos and Colts have the same record, but Broncos have the tiebreaker because they beat Indianapolis, which makes the Colts the number 3 seed. The number 4 seed is the Cincinnati Bengals at 8-5. 5 seed Miami Dolphins 10-3. 6 seed right now is the Oakland Raiders at 8-5. The only change I can see happening there is Miami getting a 1 seed over New York, and maybe the Broncos and Colts switching. But other than that, I don't see a change in that. I think that'll end up being at least your 6 playoff teams in somewhere near that order. I promise to answer questions. This has gone way shorter than I thought it would. So if anyone has questions, please ask. I'll hang on for a few minutes or a couple minutes and trying to maybe get some more conversation going. It looks like no one's really watching either. Yeah, down to 0 viewers. Great. This wasn't planned very well on my end. I apologize for that. And I've heard from Rome that there's maybe some poor quality issues going on. Maybe that's my fault. Maybe that's, I don't know, YouTube or your ISP. But so let's see here. Let's go through the West real quick. Oakland's remaining schedule, like I mentioned, they host Pittsburgh. They also host the Colts and then travel to Denver. I think they probably have the toughest schedule of their three remaining West teams, just because they have three potential playoff teams left on their schedule when no other team has more than two. In fact, Denver only has one. They travel to Buffalo and then to Houston in Week 16, then host Oakland. Sorry, so Denver definitely has the easiest schedule down the stretch, and plus being one game up on the Raiders just gives them one more leg up. So I'll go ahead and predict the Denver Broncos to win the AFC West. Oh, at least one person's watching it. Thanks, Alien. And I know I just shouted you out and then said Broncos were going to win the division, but I still think you'll win the 6th seed. I think you'll like I said, you'll beat Pittsburgh, and then I think from there it really doesn't matter because San Diego's going to trip up once, and then I think as long as you beat Denver, even if you, I don't know. I'm just going to predict the Oakland Raiders to get the 6th seed behind whoever the second place AFC East team is. Bengals, let's see, they're currently the 4th seed because they have the worst division record of all the division winners. They got Kansas City, New England, and Cleveland all at home. So really all they need is Colts trip up once and then maybe win on tiebreakers because the Colts finish our season all on the road at Cleveland, at Oakland, and at Houston. So I could easily see the Colts finishing as the 4 seed, which would be sad for me. But let's talk about the Indianapolis Colts for a second, since I've got you all here, or all one of you. This was a team last year that, coming into the season, I thought 5-11 was a very optimistic outlook. We finished 4-12. Through a couple of trades, we're able to make our way to the number one pick, and get our quarterback of the future, Aaron Shea. I do want to mention that our backup and former starter and former AFC champion, Greg Bieria, if you look at the wiki stats, has the highest completion percentage of anyone in the league, regardless of attempts. So I do want to shout that out real quick to Greg. We got our guy, and he's proven to be a huge difference. I think we had a really, really solid draft all around. Getting Kelly Mitchell in the 2nd round, I think, was a huge deal for us. I know we may have reached a little bit in Aaron Samuelson, but I think he's had like 3 or 4 interceptions for us. So he's at least given the ball back to the offense. As a whole, our offensive line has improved slightly and stayed healthy for the most part. I know William Kennard is a little banged up right now, but I'm really proud of what we've done. I give a huge shout out to Lasercats and another huge shout out to Emperor for working his coaching magic. I think he's honestly one of the most underrated coaches in the sim. And I've had questions open for about 4 minutes. I'm now up to 2 viewers. Thank you so much, whoever's watching, guys. All 2 of you. I think it's Alien and Cade. So I think I'm going to shut it down here. And if you watch this later and you want to ask me questions or ask why I stumble a lot when I talk, it's because I don't know. Well, I stumble a lot because I don't know what the fuck I'm talking about. You probably shouldn't be listening to me talk about anything. But if you do have questions after I finish wrapping this up, just comment in the post. I'll give my opinion if you want my opinion, or if you wanted someone else to give you their opinion, that's fine. Kate wants to talk about the NFC, and all I gotta say about the NFC is they're a bunch of fucking queefs, and no one cares. Go AFC forever.